test. Hey y'all, it's Laura. Welcome back to another Cocoa Vanilla Studio Design Team video. This time I'm digging into my stash and pulling out the No Limits collection, which I believe was from last year or the year before, something like that. And it is a kind of space themed collection, and I absolutely love this one. The color scheme on here is so easy to use. It's a mixed primary colors and secondary colors, and I absolutely love it. It's got a versatile, heavy star theme. I think you could use it for kind of outdoorsy photos. You could use it for anything sort of science related, which is what we're doing today. So one of the places that my family loves to go to is the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum in Michigan. And that is one of those places that whenever I'm back in town, I always try to make time for the kids and I to go to the Hands-On Museum because my twins especially love it. And so I have a ton of photos from our last trip in November, and so about a year ago, almost a year ago now that we were up there, and I wanted to scrap them with this absolutely stunning No Limits collection. So I'm going to be doing a kind of a two-page spread. The first page will be in this video, and then I'm going to do a really fun modified grid in the second video, and that'll be later this month. And so this is the first part. And I have two photos that I especially wanted to highlight on the left side of this layout. And these absolutely funny photo here that I am adding a border to now has my twins, one with their eyes covered, one with their ears covered. And it has very strong monkey see, monkey do vibes, you know, little monkeys that like cover their ears and eyes and mouth. And I didn't have one, obviously, that's covering their mouth, but it's really what it is a moment of a little bit of overwhelm for them, but they were self-regulating, which is something that I really encourage with my girls because they do have autism, and they can self-regulate quite easily if they just kind of do a little bit of sensory deprivation. And so Olivia was a little overwhelmed that she covered her eyes because of course they're sitting in a retired ambulance that was in the museum, and this was a quiet space that allowed them to kind of block out some of the busyness of everybody running around outside of the ambulance. As you can imagine, at a children's museum, it's quite loud, quite busy, and there's a lot of things going on, and they loved this ambulance because they could just climb in it and just kind of chill. So even though they were overwhelmed, this picture is of them relaxing and kind of resetting themselves sensory wise. And I love that they had places like this in the museum that worked for that purpose. To give this layout a little bit of something fun, a little bit of something different, I decided to do borders on the left and the right hand side with these stars, and these are fussy cut out from some of the papers, and I'm just lining up the stars along the edge. They're going to go off of the edge, and when I trim those off at the end, I am going to kind of tuck those in other places so they don't get wasted. I do like to use all of the bits and pieces if I can. This layout was so much fun and came together so quickly once I figured out what I wanted to do. I really enjoyed getting these little star outlines in the background here behind my photos that created a really nice backdrop for the photos, and then kind of offset that embellishment cluster with the one at the bottom right underneath of the ambulance photo, underneath the adventure part. So kind of balanced out those two clusters in a diagonal flow. And then I have, of course, the vertical embellishing down the sides. So this is going to be a fairly simple design, but I think all of the tiny little details come together to give it a really fun effect, especially these borders on the right and the left. I think that those add so much to the layout, so much whimsy and so much fun, and kind of really capture the joy of this trip and the joy of this visit to the museum. Now, for my journaling, I have put a little journaling spot there in the center that is from the cut apart sheet, and I've just kind of layered that behind my photos so that I can add in just a little bit of journaling about what's going on in these photos, where we're at, all of the details. And down below I'm just going to create a fun little cluster with some of the little bands of color that are on the manufacturing strips. I like to trim those out and use them. They're supposed to be kind of a little preview of what's on the back of the paper, but I like to use them onto layouts too. I think The strip or stripe design that I do quite often is much easier if you have that little pattern from the manufacturing strips. I always love when manufacturers include that, and Cocoa Vanilla does a really interesting spin on it with you get a little preview, if you will, on the bottom of the manufacturing strips. I think that's really neat. And so I will use some of those on this layout as well. Now I do want to encourage you to check out the blog. There's going to be more photos and more details on the blog for this layout, as well as a ton of inspiration from all of the other design team members. And that is cocoavanilla.com.au, because of course they are in Australia. So they have the little .au at the end, and it is packed with ideas to use as inspiration for your Cocoa Vanilla collections. I know that I have quite a stash going of Cocoa Vanilla after all of these years. I've been scrapping with them for a very long time and absolutely adore every single collection, which is why I'm on the design team, because I can't get enough. So this lovely cluster at the bottom is going to have a frame from the ephemera pack, and I'm going to layer it again over these little strips from the manufacturing bit at the bottom, and I'm just going to go back and forth with them. I will trim those out so they'll fit inside of that orange space, but I wanted something to kind of act as a shelf for this frame to give it a little bit of punch, just something down at the bottom that kind of filled it out and made it feel finished, made it feel done, because otherwise it was just going to be a big empty space. Since I'd already added in a journaling spot and my title at the top, I didn't really have anything else I needed to put down here at the bottom, so I decided this little fun little cluster was a good option. Now that I've got everything taped and glued down, I am going to go ahead and trim off those sides, and you'll see what a fun effect this has with these little stars just kind of popping in from the side. They're just a little bit of detail, a little bit of fun to add to this layout. I'm going to grab the larger bits and pieces that were left over and kind of fill in this little frame at the bottom, and then I'm going to add a large sentiment from the cut apart sheet on top. That's kind of a subtitle is what I decided to do. But I really think that all of these elements work together to make this a really interesting layout, and one that was really fun and easy to put together. I love when I have things like stars or hearts or circles or hexagons that I can use to create backgrounds and create interesting borders like this one. Now, as I'm gluing everything down, I do want to let you know that I'm going to be finishing this layout rather quickly because it came together that fast. And this layout is again part of a 2-page series, so you'll see another page pop up at the end of the month using this same collection, No Limits, and it will have a grand total of 5 photos on it, and I am super excited to show you that one as well. I do add a little bit of a word phrase from the cut apart sheet just above the title, and I think it says Out of This World Adventure, so that adds to the adventure title, makes it kind of a longer title. Nice little trick if you've got one of these larger words and you want to kind of add on to it. Often the cut aparts have great word phrases on them, or the sticker sheets as well. I really like those lovely little word phrases at the bottom of the Cocoa Vanilla sticker sheets. They're always so clever. They have the best phrases on them, and I especially love when she puts like little stars and hearts and mixes those in with the word phrases. I think it just gives them a little something extra, you know, a little detail that I appreciate very much, Zoe. This is a little bit of outlining happening right now using my Muji gel pen, and I absolutely love the outlining effect. So this is going to happen to every single star on this page. Yes, I went and outlined all of them, and you will see why. It makes them pop. It gives them some definition and definitely adds a little bit more detail. And the details are something that I tend to focus on more than a lot of the background design. I'm not someone who leans into mixed media very heavily because I am absolutely enamored with patterned paper, and so I use different techniques and different fun little ways to make that paper have the same gravitas on the background as mixed media or stamping or some other technique would. And this is one of those techniques where I just go ahead and define all of the shapes with a little bit of black gel ink, and it gives so much more definition to the layout as a whole, and I really love that effect. Now I'm going to be finishing this one up with some scattering and splattering. Now my scattering is largely going to be with some little tiny stars that are fussy cut from pattern paper, and then my splattering will be 2 levels. It will be Gold Nouveau, which I use for a controlled splatter around my clusters, and then I'll come in with some gold ink spray for some uncontrolled splatter just to finish it off. And I find that finishing effect of scattering and splattering really gives a layout a polished look. And so it doesn't feel like I just threw some bits and pieces onto the page. It feels like there was a lot of intention and a lot of thought put into the layout, and it does feel like it's finished. It feels like it was planned and now it's finished. And I do, to some degree, plan layouts, especially for design teams. I at least go into them with a pretty vague idea of what I want, how I want the background to be set up. But once I start gluing and taping everything down, I do tend to let myself go free and just embellish on a whim. I find letting that creative flow handle itself near the end really works out well for me to get exactly the effect that I'm looking for, because my eye has become very trained in the last 20 or so years that I've been scrapbooking to know exactly where to put all those tiny details. So if you're still not sure, you're still working on that particular gift, give yourself a little bit of a break. It does take a lot of practice, and kind of check out how others do their layouts as well, which is why I send you to the blog, because seeing how other people scrap their photos and what those little details look like on other people's layouts is a great way to kind of give yourself a little inspiration for how you're going to add those details to your own layouts. Practice makes better, but inspiration is far more motivating, I find. That's about it for this one, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to give this lovely scattered border a try on a future layout. And until next time, bye y'all.